All right, Carl, we're ready whenever you are.
All right. So welcome to week 6 of Saturday Shop Tours. We're going to feature my buddy Greg Pezza. He and his wife Dana own Itri Wood Fired. And I think the really awesome part of this is, we were featuring makers. They built this business from the ground up. They bought this property, restored it, designed the layout. From concept design, the branding, the menu, the dough, like all the ingredients. They've done an awesome job with their social media presence. And they've also done an amazing job sort of pivoting here in this difficult time with these awesome kits that you can take home and make, and just the way they've handled their takeout. So, Greg, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to pin you, so you're going to take over the screen and take it away.
Cool. Thank you, Carl. And thank you, everyone out there. Carl obviously has been very, very supportive. 2 things I want to explain before we get going. I'm not wearing gloves. I'm not wearing a mask. It's just my father and me right now. So in a typical environment, obviously, we would be taking all the precautions. And anything I make today is not going to be served to the public. So I just want you to get the more authentic feel than the kind of the surgical look that we're doing in the kitchens these days. So just wanted to make that clear. The other thing, I don't know if Carl remembers this, but my wife and I had bought this building. We knew we wanted to open a restaurant. We were obviously very interested in pizza, but we weren't quite totally sold yet. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead. You're good.
Okay. So we weren't totally sold on whether we were going to go wood fired or not. And Carl and I had a conversation in the back of a friend of ours' house, and he was like, there's a place in Philadelphia called Savino that I think would be really cool like that in Philadelphia. And I was like, well, we've been thinking about that. Anyway, Carl his last kind of conversation about that pushed us over the edge, and that was the route we were going to go. So I don't know if I ever even completely told Carl that, but that was the final straw to say we're going to do this concept. So I'm going to take you through a little bit about what Carl mentioned is that since this is a makers club, I'm going to show you what we did with the design very quickly. Then I'm going to show you how we make dough, and then I'm going to make a pizza, and we'll talk through that. So this is the front of our building. We had everything just completely refurbished, rehashed. If you're from Bristol, you may or may not remember Mark Carter Photography. That's what was here before, and it was a bit of a dated building, and we tried to update it the best we could. So come on in. Oh, and also, obviously, when we're in normal service, the front of the house, as we call it, will be much more organized, but we've been kind of running a crazy takeout business now, so we tried to adapt accordingly. But what I really wanted to show you were the walls. That's something that Dana and I were very passionate about. When we were ripping down the panel, we found these brick walls, and some people said you can never have that kind of brick wall in a restaurant, and we went and investigated a lot of different products that can make this sanitary and healthy, and we found it, and the health department said great job, and so we've got this really cool exposed brick wall. Used to be wood paneling and panel, and then we also got an artist next door to paint for us this painting that we're also pretty proud of. This is a painting of a guy named Pezza, who is from the city of Itri in Italy, which is also where my grandfather is from. So Pezza is this kind of folklore brigand, basically, from Itri. He fought against the French occupation, but he was also a criminal, probably a pretty bad guy, but he's got a pretty interesting story. And so that's an actual picture of him. And we had John Mark, an artist from the Center for the Arts, kind of do an Andy Warhol rendition of it. So we're proud of the way it looks. Unfortunately, we haven't had a whole lot of opportunity as of late to show off our ambiance, but our ambiance is one of the things that we really celebrate in here as well. So that said, we're going to move on to the idea of making dough, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our pizza oven, and we'll get going. So follow me. We're going upstairs. Okay. This is the oven. We'll get back to that in a couple minutes. This is basically our dough room. And what you will see here, and I kind of wanted to make a little bit of a point of it. So in here is where we make our dough. And dough is, in my opinion, the most important part of the pizza. Not that the ingredients on the toppings aren't exceptionally important, they are. But if you have a really bad dough or an inconsistent dough, you're just going to get a very inconsistent product. And what makes that particularly challenging in our area is how volatile our weather is. Humidity has a tremendous impact on dough. So as we're getting into that humid season, we need to make adjustments to our recipe, to the temperature of our water, things about in that way. It's actually a lot easier to make dough in the winter, fall, and spring than it is in the summer. Again, because of that volatility and how humidity works with it. So making dough, believe it or not, it seems like it might be the simplest part of a pizza. It's actually the most difficult. And it is actually a science as well. We use baker's percentages. So if you ever pick up a cookbook with a pizza recipe in it, often the chefs try to just simplify it for you and they give you the exact measurements, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but it doesn't really teach you how to adapt your dough recipe or anything like that. So if you use baker's percentages, which almost all good bakers use, and almost all good dough makers use, baker's percentages, if you show this here, Dad. Baker's percentages is basically, it shows you the percentage of your ingredients based on the flour. So flour, as you might see here, so it says 50-50, right? So the type of flour that we use, and it's 50-50, we use 2 different kinds of flour, that equals 100%. Then the rest of your recipe all goes off of that. So we do what we call a high hydration dough. So that is 66% water. So whatever the percentage of dough we use, so if we use 10,000 grams of dough, which is what our basic batch is for like a whole day of dough, then we would use 6,600 grams of water. So it's 66%. That way it makes it just very easy to adapt your recipe. So if you don't need 60 dough balls, you only need 30, then you just go off these percentages. So the flour is 100%, then you've got the water as a percentage, the yeast as a percentage, the salt, and the oil as a percentage as well. So I'm actually making 2,500 grams of dough today. I've got everything measured out so far except for the water. Excuse me. And the reason I haven't done the water yet is I just wanted to make a point of this. You know, we've got measuring cups, we've got the things that lay out the quarts or whatever it might be, but I highly recommend if you're ever going to try to make your own dough that you weigh your water, because these and even the pitchers, they're very inaccurate. And it can, as one guy that told me before, that there is no guessing in making dough. You really need to be very precise and exact with your measurements, or it could really throw off the whole process. So with a 2,500 gram recipe, we use 66% water, 2,500 grams of flour. That means we're going to do 1,650 grams of lukewarm water. So I'm going to measure that there. Right now we're at 1360. And that's 1640, so I just need 10 more, which is just like a splash. That was too much, so. And there it is, 1650. And as you can see, like I said, if you got 1660 or 1640, it's not what you want. You want to get the exact measurements that you need. Something else I wanted to reference today that I think is of note is the kind of flour and the kind of yeast that we use. So we are what we like to call ourselves is Neo-Neapolitan. So a Neapolitan pizza, some people might not realize this. I had a woman come in, and I'm not going to name the pizzeria because I actually really, really like the pizzeria. But she came in and said, oh, I went to this place, and I really didn't like it. And I said, why not? She said, it was too mushy. It was too soft in the middle. It was too wet. And I know this place, and this place is an authentic Neapolitan pizza restaurant. They make Neapolitan pizza. And I politely told her that that's how it's supposed to be. That's what Neapolitan pizza is. Neapolitan pizza is very wet. It's very soft in the middle. It is, if you watch that guy on, some people watch this guy, I can't remember his name. They call him Dave Portnoy. He does this review of pizzerias.
Hey everyone, just wanted to let you know that we struggled a little bit in this video with some of the connectivity, and there's a little fallout on some of the video and audio, but the content is still really good and it's worth watching. So thanks and enjoy.
Okay. So what I was saying there is the Barstool Sports guy who does these reviews, he's very, very famous right now. He doesn't like the flop. A Neapolitan pizza has the flop. It's wet. It's small. It's got a very airy crust. So in an authentic Neapolitan pizzeria, you would get that. That's what it is. And some people love that, but I think in America, it's not exactly what we flop to. So we do a Neapolitan pizza, which has some elements of a Neapolitan, but not all elements of what they do with the flop. So one thing they do is they create their dough with only 00 flour. We use part 00 flour, but we don't use all 00 flour. The other thing they use is authentic San Marzano tomatoes. We use Jersey fresh tomatoes, like the local idea. They also tend to cook their dough at like 800 to 1,000 degrees. We cook ours at 630 degrees, which gives it a little bit more of a crisp. So it gives it that kind of blend of a Neapolitan and a New York style pizza. All right, so a few other things that bear mentioning here. The yeast. What you will see most often when people are making pizza is this. This is active dry yeast. This is like the creme de la creme of yeast. This is fresh yeast, which fresh yeast creates a much, I think, more flavorful product. It's really, really good, but it's very hard to find. So, you know, consistency, I think, is really important in a restaurant. So to be able to get it sometimes and not others, we don't use the fresh yeast. I have it here when I want to have a little fun and experiment with some recipes. Active dry yeast is what most pizzerias use, honestly. This needs to be what we call activated. And why we don't use it is because of the volatility of our weather. It needs to be activated by the temperature of the water for it to be a living yeast. What we use is instant yeast. I think it actually has a much better flavor. It tastes a lot more like the fresh. It's a lot less volatile. And also, you can mix it directly with your dry ingredients, and it won't die. If you mix the active dry yeast with salt before it's activated, the active dry yeast will actually die, and the yeast will not do its job. So we've tried to make this process a little more user-friendly when it comes to actually making the dough. All right, so let's get to making the dough very quickly. Here we've got our flour, and when you look at what we're going to be actually doing here, I need to grab one other pan. Excuse me for a second. So we've got our flour, and what we like to do first is to dump the flour in here. And this is also not typical for what people do with dough. And what I'll explain is that what people usually do is they drop their water and their yeast, and then they activate their yeast. We like to mix our dry ingredients in here. So dry ingredients meaning our yeast and our salt and our flour. So we dump our yeast and we dump our salt into the flour, and we just mix it dry. What a lot of people will do is they will drop the water, drop the yeast, and then they'll let that kind of settle together, and then they'll start the mixing process, and then they'll add the salt, and then they'll add the oil. We like to add the dry ingredients together right away. Then what we also do is now we will drop the water. This is our mega mixer here that we have. Some pizzerias have mixers that are 3 times the size of this. We are not a big pizzeria, so we don't do that. I like to dump the water first. Could dump it right in there, but I like to dump it so that the dough actually incorporates a little bit better. The flour. All right, so we drop the flour. We drop about 3/4 of the flour. And then we let it mix for a little while. You can throw that in there. Like I said, this is a very big mixer. And this is also a very wet dough. Wet dough can be a little bit difficult to work with at times, but I tend to think And as that really starts to incorporate that, you like to clean it down a little bit. I'm going to scrape it one more time, and then I'm going to start adding oil. When you have a bigger batch, you don't really need to scrape it this much because the flour's up higher and the hook catches it a little bit better. But since this is a small batch, you gotta scrape it a little bit. So now I'm gonna just slowly add the oil. Neapolitan recipe does not have oil. Ours does because, as I said, most New York style recipes do. This gives it a little bit of that crispiness that some of us, I think, like.
Hey, Greg, I have a question for you.
What's up?
Philadelphians, when they leave the area, they always complain they can't get good bread or pizza in other parts of the country. What is the reason for that? They can't.
Well, a lot of people say it's the water,
right?
And I think there's some truth to that. I think there's some truth to that. That is my best theory. The other theory that if you talk to Donnie Pitt, he'll tell you. Donnie from Caesars, for those of you that don't know, he'll tell you it's the pizza that you grow up with. That, we all complain when we go somewhere else and try a different pizza, but he would just tell you it's what you're used to. But I do think that the water is a little bit different. It's like a harder water here, but it creates a better product. That's why, like they say, New York bagels are a lot better too.
Right.
All right, so what I would do is I would let this continue to mix, and for the sake of time, I'm going to let it mix, but we're going to leave, go downstairs. This would mix for about another 5 to 10 minutes or so. I would take it out, and I would immediately put it in a bulk container, and I would take that and put it directly into the walk-in box. Some people ball it out right away and put it in. We let it bulk rise. So we put it right into the bulk container. We put it in the walk-in box, and we let it rise as a bulk for 24 hours. And the next day, we would come back. We would ball it out. So we're going to go downstairs and show you what the final product would be. And then we're going to make the pizza. So after it would have bulk rise 24 hours, we would have then balled it out. We bring out immediately because we like to get these up to room temperature. So you want your dough balls to eventually come up to room temperature. Now this is my opinion. That looks really, really nice. So if you look at this is kind of the end product of one of those dough balls. Very airy, really just smooth, very nice. So this is actually a 48 hour. We can do anywhere between 24 and 48 hours. Once you get beyond that, it's probably no good. So we try to go through our dough in 24 to 48 hours. Generally, the longer they ferment, the longer that they rise, they're going to be more flavorful, and I think just a better product. So that's why some people do same-day dough. You can do that, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that the longer you let your dough ferment in a refrigerator especially, the better it's going to be, because what the cold does is it slows down the fermentation, but really allows it to slowly be active and grow and live, as opposed to kind of a fast rise, which becomes much more volatile. Like if you try to bulk rise or even rise as a ball throughout the course of one day, it'll work, but it'll also pop eventually. It'll rise so fast. So I'm going to stretch this dough. Now again, authentic Neapolitan places, they would use only their hands. And we were doing that for a while, and then we're like, what is authentic? It's like, for us, it's where do we get better results? So what we started to do is we start with a pin. You can walk by it. So Milton just arrived. He's here he's actually going to go ball out the other dough. So we start with the pin, get it going a little bit. Now this is actually, because it's coming up to room temperature and because it's been rising for 48 hours, this is a really nice dough to work with. So this is just a really, really, I'm not trying to sometimes we get better results than others. This is a great, great dough right here. It's just really nice and smooth, and it's gonna spread pretty evenly. It's gonna stretch pretty well as well. The stretching process is something that you could, if you ever want to learn this or practice it, get a wet towel. And that whole same feeling that you would get from a wet towel is what you would do. Some people are so afraid to rip it. And honestly, if you do rip it, it's a small hole, it can easily be fixed. But, you put a big hole in, you just got to throw it away and start. All right, so also it's obviously a lot less likely to rip if you're doing it on the edges. There's some guys at the famous pizzerias do the spin and toss it up in the air. That's cool, it's all fun, it's not necessary. But it's cool. All right, so I've stretched the dough. Now we've got our paddle. So what I put on the paddle is semolina. Semolina is a more or less like a pasta flour. But what that allows for is a little bit of a flicker work surface so that you can slide it into the oven pretty easily. Get it a little bit bigger here. And, we've got all our toppings here. I'm going to do something simple. I'm going to do classic cheese Jersey fresh tomato. Again, going back to the theory of Neapolitan pizza, the theory is you've got to use San Marzano tomatoes, you've got to use buffalo mozzarella, you've got to use all these ingredients, which are all indigenous to the Naples region. So, in our opinion, it's more about their process than it is about their product. It's more about their process than it is about their product. They use local, right? So, if you're in Naples, you use local stuff. So, we do our best to use local stuff to make things in-house the best that we can. So, the other thing that we do is we make our own mozzarella. So, this is all fresh mozz here that we have pulled in-house. And that is a process in and of itself. But again, you get a really fresh mozzarella as a result of it. So an authentic Neapolitan would require what's called buffalo mozzarella or fiori di latte. So we would be violating the authentic Neapolitan rules here. The other thing that
you're back.
All right, there we are. I'm just about finished here. So the last thing, I don't know what you saw here, but the last thing we're going to add here is the, this is called induja. It's a Calabrian sausage. It's spicy. It is kind of a gourmet sort of topping. So I'm doing a pretty simple pizza here with an induja topping. It's a spicy Calabrian sausage that's kind of set up like a spread. So we're going to go right into the oven. And then as it goes in the oven, I'll tell you a little bit about the oven itself. Can you guys still hear me and see me now?
Yeah, you're good, Greg. Yep.
Okay. So this oven is a Pezza oven. This is from the town of Modena in Italy. It was built on site. There are some more decorative ovens available that we were looking at that I think would have really popped when you walk in the place, which would have been neat. And we were really vacillating back and forth between that real cool looking oven as opposed to kind of an old reliable. And we went with this one, and we've never ever made a better decision. This oven is awesome. Just a few things, kind of a little bit of a trade secret, but still be cool. You see over here, Dad, showing the wood. We do fire it with wood, and it does give you that authentic flavor, but we like to keep our oven at a very consistent temperature, which is 630. So we also have a gas assist. So when it drops below the temperature, it will kick in the gas assist and just get it back up to temp. So it rarely kicks in, but when it does, it's just there to kind of keep our see, you just saw it kick in. It keeps our temperature consistent and keeps the oven at 630. As I said before, a real authentic Neapolitan would be more like 800 or 900 degrees, and in New York would be like 500. So we're kind of somewhere in between at about 630. Hopefully you can see what's going on in there, but we're getting a real nice pizza going right now.
Greg, how long do you typically cook a single pie like that?
Usually takes about 3 minutes.
Okay.
You know, if you were doing the Neapolitan style, it would take about 90 seconds. That's actually crazy to see. You know, you throw it in there and it's like done. And we can do that. We can fire this oven up to 900 degrees, and it's fun. It's also almost impossible for service in a small restaurant like this, because we would have to have two guys here, one guy making the pizza, the other throwing it in and monitoring it every second. But so a typical, this one would typically take somewhere around 3 minutes, and then like a New York style would probably take like 10.
Is it a special kind of wood, and how much wood goes into the oven?
It is. We just use an oak. So it is. It's very standard for a wood-fired oven. So we just use a very basic oak, and it really depends on how hot the oven already is. So when you get the oven started, you want to put a lot of wood in there to get it up to 10. But after that, you really don't need a whole lot of wood to keep it up to the temperature that we like. Now, again, if you're trying to go warmer than that, it would require a lot more wood. So that is kind of the idea here. Now, so you're seeing this is almost done. When you talk about kind of the spotting, what some people like to talk about. So there's also kind of a debate that rages on about these wood-fired ovens about what is burnt and what is not burnt. And they're supposed to have a bit of a char to them. Gives it that little bit.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah, and I raise it up to the ceiling there so that we get a sense of. So we kind of give it that last crisp to make sure all the cheese is melted. And there we've got a spicy andouille pizza. Now this is super hot, needless to say. Oh, also on andouille, you don't need to add olive oil because it's got such oils in it. So certain pizzas we add some olive oil to it, not the one with the andouille because the oil from the andouille just comes dripping off. As you can see some of it there, and then we put some kosher salt on at the end, and that is it. There's the pizza. So you can see here, it is not floppy to the degree that a Neapolitan would be, but it's not crispy to the degree that maybe a New York slice would be. It's got a nice crisp here, but it's still light in the middle, and get a really nice product.
Awesome. So I know we're running a little late here today. I apologize for that due to technical difficulties. But anybody have any real quick questions for Greg before we sign off?
Yeah, I'd like to know, Greg, were you always into making pizza, or just since you opened your restaurant?
So I've always been obsessed with pizza, and I made a lot of pizza at home. But obviously, once we went full board with this, I became a bigger student of it. Let's just say, really like obsessive about it. My wife is like, "All right, I understand we own this place, but you're even a little getting carried away here." So I've come to know maybe more about dough than most people should.
That's awesome.
What is zero flour? I never heard of that.
I'm sorry, you said what is 00?
What is? I thought you said zero flour.
Yeah, it's called 00.
Oh.
So it's it's about how fine or not fine it is. So 00 is an extremely fine flour, very light, and it is what all Neapolitan dough recipes call for. And if you ever see a brand called Caputo or Stagione 5, those are flour brands that are made in Naples that make them more of the authentic Neapolitan style. They're also higher in protein than most flours, which again allows it for a hotter cook.
Awesome. All righty. As you know, I like to kind of do my best to stay to the time frame. So, Greg, thank you for your time, and the demo was amazing. Due to technical difficulties, we missed a tiny bit of it, but overall it was awesome. Next week, please tune in. Michaela will be featuring her design collection as well as doing a live 3D modeling and rendering demo. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. It was great.
Have an awesome weekend.
Yeah, I'm hungry.